Welcome to the On Stage podcast, where we deep dive into the power of music and entertainment. Welcome, everyone, to today's special interview with the incredibly talented Chad Rising. Now, Chad Rising is a songwriter and recording artist on a mission to make music for positive change. He's written a guide as a gateway to understanding how music affects you far more than you realize. Chad is not a musician, but a light worker and healer who uses sound and other forms of energy to raise the vibration of humanity. Yes, I read everything.
I
His
wrote
work,
that like 2 days ago, so I'm glad you did.
his work spans across pop music, abstract art, and web development. That's interesting because I thought web development is dead since everyone can do web development now with the ads.
Oh, don't get me going.
Chad's mission is to unite and empower those who seek to guide and elevate humanity. Today, we'll deep dive into his journey, inspirations, and the powerful messages behind his art. Let's welcome Chad Rising.
Thank
Excellent.
you so much.
So, can you
Thanks
tell
for
me
having me
more
on.
about? You're very welcome. Can you tell me more about your journey as a light worker and healer, and can you go back to the beginning and what brought you to the place where you are now?
Whew, go back to the beginning. That's like before time and space. It's funny that you brought that up, which is great. I just wrote that a couple days ago because you asked me for a bio and I didn't have one. I gave you a little sentence and then somebody else on the Instagram asked me, "Can you help me with finding myself or like finding more about awakening?" And I'm like, while this is getting to the beginning, like the beginning was from birth, but somebody asked me, what do I do? What do you want? What do you suggest? And I realized that my role is not to teach people. My role is not to necessarily convince people or teach people anything, but to just wake them, rattle them up, rattle the cage, shake them up a little bit to the point where they want to ask questions about life, reality, society, economy, whatever, anything. Just peeling back the veil. So Lightworker is a word that means it's like kind of a like taboo, frilly, like foo-foo word, but it's actually becoming less and less fringe these days. And it's the best way to describe what I do, along with millions of other people around the world. It really just is somebody who wants to give their life to service, and that's not a religious thing. That's not a nonprofit-y thing. That's just anyone who feels the call to contribute their skills for the betterment of their home, their family, their job, their community, their state, their country, their world. Right? There are different levels of contribution. Mine, I feel a pull to have a global contribution. But really, Lightworker is just anyone who wants to bring the light to Earth, because whether people talk about it in different ways, and whether people want to admit it or not, I believe, and it seems like there's a resonance that the darkness has kind of crept a little bit further than we want, and it doesn't, it won't stop itself. So it's really not as much of like a. There's the word spiritual warfare going around, and I resonate with that a little bit, but it's more of just balancing. We need to bring balance back. There is darkness. We can't avoid that. There is light, but I feel like we've been messing around in the darkness for a little too long. And then in the world, but in the context of the music industry, darkness and indulgence and superficiality and materialism has kind of run rampant to the point where it's becoming toxic for society. And I used to be like, down with darkness. No, none of that. But now I'm like, okay, there is a place for it, but we have to just kind of like create more light so that it kind of goes back into balance. So that's what the Lightworker part is. And it started from birth. I just knew that I was destined, not even destined, I just knew innately that I was here to do something, period. I didn't know what that something was, but I knew it was big. And I'm not quite there yet, but that's the rebirth of my music career. And persona as Chad Rising is that final like stepping into my role, because I'm not changing my name again.
So, what was the process where you decided? Okay, you mentioned earlier before I actually pressed the record button that things didn't go well for you when we first met, and now they're where they are. How did that just suddenly happen? Like the Big Bang Theory? Boom! Cha!
Well, it's not in one moment, but in one coalescence, a confluence of moments. Let's see. So I used my real name for those 2 years that when I had talked to you. And the reason that I used my real name is because I had left New York City. I was in New York City for the better part of 10 years. I left in 2019. I was going by the name Honeychrome. And then after that, I changed my name to like a few different random things between then and 2022. I went to Rochester for a year during COVID. I used a name there. Nothing really happened, obviously. And then I moved back to my hometown, which is where I'm at now. And I decided to shed all facade. And there's nothing wrong with that. I love performance. I love theatrics. I love being a character. But I just needed to shed all of that and remind myself that I am this person. My real name is Chad, but I used my real last name. And now I'm not using my real last name. So I shed all of that and I reminded myself that I was at the core. This is who I am. This is what I'm meant to be. It's not something that I put on and I take off. It is who I am when I wake up to when I go to bed. It's who I am when I'm doing web design for money. It's who I am when I'm painting. It's who I am when I'm making dinner. It's who I am when I'm making music. That said, there is a benefit to having a stage name, as always. I always had a stage name. Okay, and I'm getting ahead of myself. But the reason, when I was using my real name, and even before then, there was like something that was just missing from my musicality. I had the passion, I had the drive, I had the motivation, I had the vision, but there was something missing from my vocals, to be honest, from my songwriting. I was good, but it wasn't hitting. And I wasn't delusional in the fact that I was like, why am I not? Well, maybe I was a little delusional, but I wasn't blind. I didn't know what to do. It wasn't working. I was paying producers to make the music sound better than I could do on my own. I was recording in a professional studio, but the song, it just wasn't coming through. I met this guy named Paul. He found me on Instagram. He is now, and then we talked. He's a professional songwriter. That's his main job. He has had a #1 hit on the billboards, and he found me on one of my reels, and one of my reels was like, I have paid da 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 into my music career, and it's not just letting you people know that it takes a lot of money, and if anyone needs web design to hit me up. Like, I was bordering on poor me. I'll be honest. I was bordering on the poor me thing. And he said, well, if you paid that much money, which was $50,000, I probably had spent $50,000 over 10 years, and I wasn't really going anywhere. And which is not a lot of money, and it's not even uncommon, but that's what it was. And he said, if you have done all that and you're still where you are, something's missing. And I was like, you know what? You're right. Because this was after I had done 2 songs as my old name, thought that was going to launch me. It didn't really do it. So I said, you know what? Universe, God, energy, whatever you want to call it. I said, I accept that something's missing. Help me figure it out. Paul showed up. We talked for about a year before I hired him. I hired him. I stopped releasing music. I just started focusing on writing. I hired him. He helped me get the music up to the level that it is now, that all the music that I'm putting out under Chad Rising, although I'm putting some of my older stuff out because it still means something. But that was the difference. That was the big bang. Paul coming in and being my guide and my mentor. I worked with him for 6 months every day straight. He's in Liverpool. I'm in Philadelphia. So we worked virtually. And I went into boot camp mode, and I got better, and I fought it, and I bitched and moaned and complained and fought my ego down, and I became a great songwriter. Like, objectively, my new work is great. Is it Hall of Fame yet? We'll see. I know I can get better, but the difference between where I was and where I am now is industry, is amateur versus professional. So that all needed a new name. I didn't want to use my real name because if I was going to go to the level that I wanted, I knew that protecting my real name was going to be beneficial to me in my personal life. And now I'm just starting to venture out as Chad Rising. I just started Chad Rising in this past April, so it's been 6 months, and this is my second podcast, and I just booked my first show as Chad Rising. So it's the very beginning of the last era of my life, the last era that I'll ever have, because I'll never change that name again. But it has been 15 years that I've been doing this. So that's a little bit about the story to get to the name.
That's basically a lot like you're the phoenix. You know how the story about the phoenix and rises out of ashes? So you're like, Chad rises out of the ashes, becomes something totally different.
I love that. And I mean, I didn't even talk about the family problems, like the drug and alcohol addiction, the sexual the sexual
Yeah.
stuff that people have that in society, but that I was suffering from. So yeah, you're right. It is like a phoenix. Yeah, you said it. I didn't say it, but I agree.
Well, you're lucky I didn't say that, the ugly duckling was a cygnet, and you know what happened to that? It grew up into a beautiful swan.
Hey, that's kind of that works too.
So give me the idea of what you mean by light worker and healer. Healer in what?
So this is a good question, and part of I might actually change that on my bio, but only because of what I'm about to say. I am trying to bring the spiritual world, like that word triggers people because we all have a different definition of what that means. But to me, it just means that what you cannot see. That's really it. It's that what you cannot see, but you know is there. And science with quantum physics and quantum whatever is getting there. Religion has had a handle on it for forever, like organized religion. And I have nothing wrong with organized religion when it's benign. If it's malignant and causes war, that's a different thing. But general belief in faith, however you want to believe, that's great. But that's I've studied all of that. I live in that world. But that is not marketable. And that's okay. Like, I understand that. I'm not trying to do that. But also this 100% materialistic, no spiritual world that we are in right now, kind of like, I'm going on a tangent, but that's how I operate. There was like spiritual belief and just general faith throughout most of the recorded music industry's history. And then and there was religion. Religion was there. But I believe my generation, millennials, were the first generation, maybe Gen X a little bit, but the first to really dismiss religion, organized religion. But the problem is we didn't replace it with anything. So we're just kind of nihilistic, and and I'm speaking very broadly. There's people of every generation that think every way, but it kind of seems like when the internet came online, religion went offline from the masses, which is good in itself because there's a lot of bad things that came with organized religion and it needed a reboot. But that spiritualness also went offline. There was nothing to replace it with. So now we're just in this like science and money only mindset, which science, money, physical, like only. So that's the world we live in, I believe. The world that I live in is the spiritual world, but not religious. And I want to make music about that. How do we connect the two? That's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to bring these spiritual concepts into a consumable package for the regular person to hear and not even know what is what they're listening to. And that's what I believe. That's what real art does. Art transcends thought. Art transcends science and logic, which I believe we're stuck in this world of like 100% logic, especially with the internet and money and all that math. So Lightworker is just a term for anyone who has reincarnated to Earth to dedicate their life or just parts of their life to healing and helping others. And healer is just a general term for anyone who wants to heal others. And the only way that our current society thinks of healing is like you have a cut on your arm and you put some isotracin on it and you put a bandage over it. Or like you break a bone, you put a cast on it. That's the way that we looked at healing. And now we're starting to break into mental health as being the same as physical health, which is a great step. But healing is just is way, it's more than just the physical. And you can heal with sound, you can heal with art, you can heal with more than just like physical means. Healing is making people cry for a good reason. Healing is making people laugh for a good reason. Not insulting or sarcasm, or satire, which is like running wild as well. But yeah, it's not. It's just general. My intention with my music is to heal the heart of humanity because it's broken.
Well, I know crying is like to cleanse the soul of pain, but you're still in that pain because you lose somebody that you're close to and you start crying. It may release um, the pain, but it's still going to be there because you're not going to suddenly stop crying and they're alive again.
Yeah,
But when you're talking about light work and healer, you were actually talking about organized religion. And then earlier on, you were talking about God or energy, whatever, or universe. Um, Let me ask you what your thoughts are on God and the afterlife.
what's the question?
The question is, do you believe in God and you believe that man has eternal soul and an afterlife like heaven, hell?
Yeah, I believe in the lowercase g God. I believe, there's no white bearded man in the sky. I think that, well, that's what I believe. And I actually, interestingly, I think that it's like there's this whole movement for gender equality, which I'm all about. Men, women, same rights, same everything. But why do we call God a he? Like that, the whole organized religion Christian thing where it's like God is a man kind of flies in the face of all the equality that people want. Like many religious people even want that. That's just anecdotal information about the man God, like the personified of like it's a man and like he. Like, what about the woman? Is the woman secondary? So I believe that the capital G God does exist, and as whatever energy source you want to call it. Um, I believe so. Yeah, God is God. Okay, I'm losing it. I'm getting it back. God, capital G, is the Christian thing that, or the Abrahamic religions, but the spiritual people also started to use that word as well and kind of reclaim it as just a general term for energy, which I like. I don't really like to use that term because it still gets confused. Whenever you say capital G God, you're almost assumed to be Christian, which is a shame because it's not that. It doesn't have to be that way. So the same energy that Abrahamic religions and Buddha and all that believe in is the same thing as people saying the universe, same people saying energy. It's actually the same thing as quantum energy that we're learning. So I believe in that. There's something between the space, right? What is between atoms? That's God, and there is no answer. We don't have to know everything. That's the other thing. Like we're all trying to like know every single thing. And I mean, I like to know things, but I feel like there is a point where we don't have to know everything because that's what faith is for. Just non-denominational faith. It works, right? Like the sun comes up, the sun goes down. You don't have to prove that. Afterlife. I think a more popular not a more popular, a becoming more popular concept is that heaven and hell is actually like how you live on this earth. You can make your life heaven, you can make your life hell. It's up to you. Of course, I believe that there are outside forces, but for the most part, heaven and hell are like how you live here. After like the body is just a vessel for the eternal soul, like you were saying. That's a great way of saying the same kind of energy. Like we are God energy. We are the same thing that the Abrahamic religions have tried to separate us from like have tried to say that we are less than God and God is up there and we're down here, but in fact we're just God in a meat bag. We're just God run like operating this bag of meat and bones to experience something different, to experience this universe that we've created together. So I think that when you pass on, you're actually back to like more normal. You're back to like a more natural state. This is completely natural, but there's no pain, there's no burning in flames, there's no angels with wings. Like those are real things happening now. That's my thought on that stuff.
It's very interesting. I really, really appreciate your thought processes and your faith and respect. Um, I I couldn't help noticing that the. I know I want to stick on music here, but as soon as I saw your background, I noticed that there are some paintings. The one behind your head there on the wall, and the one on your left, blue. My older brother paints like that. And the first thought was that did he know my brother? Or did he buy those from my brother? Because he does the same type of painting. Did you paint those?
Yeah, and you saying that is like wow, because no one paints like me, and that's not a brag. That's just I'm
My
not
older
trained.
brother does. My older brother
That is
does.
cool.
I
I would
thought
love to
maybe you knew
see
him.
that. I would
Yeah.
love to see that when we're done.
Yeah, okay, I'll show you some photos, especially that one behind you. That was what inspired that one?
This one? That's funny because that's like my magnum opus right now. That is my flagship masterpiece right now. That was a commission by my partner Tom. He said, "I want a painting," and this is probably a year ago now. It was a commission, and it was for my life partner, and I put everything I had into it. He said, "Do whatever you want," and I said, "Great." So that's what it was. That's what it is. It's just it's the way that I write songs too. It's I'm capturing the energy, just whatever. I'm translating whatever is like happening right around me or that I'm downloading or whatever. No plan, just pure stream of like faith and consciousness.
Wow. Amazing. So, like, that's very interesting. What made you want to paint and do music at the same time? That's kind of, it's like me being a lawyer and then I skydive, you know?
Is it though? Is it more like being a lawyer and a judge?
Yeah, no, no, I mean, like, if you're, like, how many musicians paint? I know actor Roddy McDowell, you know who he is. He was an actual well known photographer, but he was also an actor. But a musician painting, I
I
guess
guess
it
it
would,
is more uncommon than I
it
guess
is
you don't hear
uncommon.
about it.
Yeah.
I mean, I try hard to not. It's funny because like people think I have a big ego, but in fact, my ego is like really well. It's well in place, but I'm confident and I'm very fully aware of who I am and what I am. The reason that I paint is because I'm just a creative soul, but that's not weird to me. Everybody is a creator. Everybody has the ability to and the natural innate desire to create and express. That is why we are here on earth in this physical plane. People curing, I mean, in the lab with the microscope, that's creative as well. Like if it makes your heart flutter and time passes by like in a flash, you're in the zone, in the flow, you're creating in a way. Paint is just there's no rules. There's no rules in paint. That's the thing. That's the thing. And I haven't thought about this before, but like there's rules in science and math, and that's great because there's certain people that operate them. That's very masculine energy, like straight lines and connecting the dots perfectly. And people that want to achieve that kind of stuff, great. But I want no rules and unlimited potential, and I want to create new all the time. And it because of just the way that I came in, the way that I'm made up, if I don't express, I get sick. I get anxiety, I get depression, I turn to
Mm.
substances. And that's a huge reason on why a lot of artists are always caught in this kind of stuff, because society these days doesn't give the artist an opportunity to express the way that they really need to, period, which is a whole nother conversation. But was actually, you're now I'm thinking about it. The reason that I started, not I've been painting since fifth grade. I've been doing them both concurrently the forever. But when I moved back and I changed my name back to my real name, and I wasn't really doing much post COVID, I didn't know what to do with music, so I was stagnant. But I knew that I couldn't be stagnant, or I would get sick. And when I say
Mm.
sick, I mean like I would get sick mentally or physically, but I usually never let it get that bad. I started painting again because I didn't know what to do with music. I wasn't performing live. I wasn't creating and producing music that I could put out and share. There was a bottleneck of energy that had to get out. So that's when I realized, okay, if I can't be doing music for any period of time, I have to paint. So that's now I know that I love painting, and I'll do it more when I can. But mostly it's there for when music is at a lull, which isn't right now. But the flip side of that is I use this paint as my album art and my track art. So it's kind of really like that's all along like been a big purpose of my paint. It's like to create this full world. Not only the vision is cohesive from the sonic, lyric, composition end, but the visual end as well. But that it's free for me. I don't have to pay anyone to make my art. I don't have to pay anyone to write my songs. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but my situation, that's just what's working for me. It's 100% my vision, which makes it stand out.
Interesting. So, what what kind of some of the artists that have influenced your music the most? That what's the difference between Chad to Chad Rising? How much has the music changed from the new guy, Chad Rising? Like, who are your
Um,
influences?
let's Michael Jackson, number one, like kind of the one and only. Uh, he's really the only one. And I think I said that to myself the other week. I said I've been influenced by other artists like Savage Garden and a lesser known band called Safety Suit, and Queen, and all the all the famous people that I resonated with. Yes, they've influenced me, but it's Michael Jackson. And people kind of made me want to be ashamed or afraid of that, but I'm not. And in the last couple of weeks, even, I really reconnected with him because no one did it like him. And I'm not talking about the level of quality or the level of fame, because people have reached that level of fame, but no one did it with his intention. He is the only one who wrote a song, We Are the World. He's the only one who wrote the song like Earth Song. He's the only one who wrote the song Beat It, which is very deep. People don't know that. He is the he Am I would you disagree? I mean, you've got Queen. You've got, I guess, like David Bowie kind of, but in pop, I mean, I don't even know. There's not even, you can't really even say that anyone has done anything uh as tactically as Michael did with the music, right? It's not about their life outside. It's not about the things they do with their money. It's not about the performance. It's about the music is to heal. Now, of course, Michael had songs that weren't all about that, but I don't know of any artist that has that plethora, that catalog of songs specifically designed to raise the consciousness of humanity. Some songs here and there, like I don't know, what's coming to mind is like We Are the Champions. But that's still like kind of ego mute. It's like the ego, like we are the champions, like we're better than you, which is nothing wrong with that, right? But it's not the same as heal the world or scream. What's it like? They don't care about us. A lot of his like lesser known hits are the ones I'm talking about. Most people know Michael for Billie Jean and Thriller.
Hmm.
That's what they know him for. But he did so much more than that, and went so much deeper than that, and that's where I resonate with. I resonate with his deeper music, and that's no one has really done it like him on a vibe, like the vibe of it, the intention.
Yeah. So I suppose that when you painted that one behind you, what was going through your mind? What was your mindset?
This one,
Yeah.
nothing.
Oh.
Nothing's going through my mind. It's actually the greatest thing. It's meditation. It's the only thing going through my mind is more of like they're like the synapses are firing, and they're I'm getting information to like choose this color or make this stroke, but it's not like I want to portray a certain shape. Like I have the whole process of that. I took a picture like every layer,
Oh, wow.
and I just start painting. It's very much like dancing, free form dancing. I just dance like on the thing, and I just go like this. That's it. And then it comes together, and then once you get closer to the end, you do start getting it critical and analytical, and like, well, now the paint has to dry, so I have to wait, or like if I make this stroke, it's going to change the color of the thing behind it, or this color won't cover that color up. Eventually it gets to that point where you have to think about the paint, the physical medium. Like this one is half oil, half acrylic, and I've never used oil before, but I
Mm.
accidentally used oil, and I was like, "Oh, this is different. Like it's not drying, but it's smearing, which is creating a really cool effect." So, yeah, but I don't think as much as feel, and I think that's a common thing for abstract, mostly artists.
That's interesting. What abstract artist inspires you the most?
I don't know a lot about art.
Mm.
I tried to make that happen. I tried to make art. I gave up. I put music kind of like I didn't give up, but I said, okay, it's not working right now, so I'm just gonna try art on Instagram and make my account about my art. But I know like nothing about art. I've been studying music in the music industry my whole life, so I'm still very much like an amateur when it comes to professional art. Although I believe that I've sold pieces, I've done murals, paid murals, like I have done professional art. But when it comes to the gallery world and making art my living, I was behind, and I didn't feel. I realized like, okay, I'm gonna admit that I don't want to spend time on that. I'll just put that energy back into music. Um, but yeah, what was the question again? What was the question again?
Uh, oh, you're
I
so
think I
interesting.
answered it, but
You're so interesting. I totally forgot. No,
I
basically, what are your favorite abstract artists? And you said you
oh
didn't
yeah,
remember.
I mean Jackson Pollock, but he's like the throw, not in a bad way, but he's like the obvious one. There's actually a couple artists on Instagram that I couldn't tell you off the top of my head, but that I do follow. Um, I mean, I don't really like Monet and Van Gogh. I appreciate them, but I don't really like classical art. I like art that says nothing, but says something. Like I don't like to know what I'm looking at, and that's just me. Plenty of people like pictures of apples, and I've learned to appreciate the paintings of apples. Right, I've learned to appreciate still life and Baroque and Romantic and Renaissance era paintings because holy crap, someone painted this. It's not a photo. Like the shadows and the lighting, you don't really appreciate that if you don't understand how art is actually made. People can be in awe and understand that. But if you don't understand that they had to make these colors, and this painting probably took 2 years, 3 years, and like the shadow on the orange, there's a painting in my head specifically, like just like there's a mirror and they painted the same thing you see in the picture is in the mirror, but they had to paint that. It's not a photo. So I definitely have a respect for that kind of art, but I seek out this kind of stuff. Just oh, what's her name? There's a German woman who lives in South Korea. And she's someone that I really like. Can't think of her name, but I'll write it in the comments of the YouTube video.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So you like apples? You heard about that Magritte photo where guys with a bowler hat, he's got an apple in front of his face. Do you like that one?
It sounds familiar, but what I was saying
Magritte.
is that I don't really care for those kind of paintings, but I appreciate them. I appreciate them, and
So
I
you talk
just
about.
actually. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
Go ahead, my friend.
I was say I just started reading the like Greek mythology to understand fully like their whole thing, because that was kind of like their Bible. The Greek mythology was the creation of Earth and everything. Like they had their own way of answering all these questions that the Christian Bible also does. And it's like many other books and texts since the dawn of recorded history, the Bible isn't the only one that says the same, that tries to answer these questions. But I'm very drawn to Greek mythology, Roman. I think I have like a past life there or a concurrent life there. Um, yeah, I think they had something cool there. Simultaneously, I think we are acting like Rome and we are falling. We are indulging. We are ignoring. We are acting like we're too cool for school and we're about to get beat up. That's what I think is happening to the modern world.
Yeah. How would you incorporate healing and energy work into your music?
The words. It's the words. Melody obviously is important. It's extremely important. And I'm getting better at that. And the industry has never really had
Hmm.
a deficit, of melody. I think
Hmm.
some people might argue that it's actually true that melodies have gotten simpler and more repetitive, which is hypnosis. Uh, right? If you repeat something, you get, that's like kind of leading into my point.
Okay, I'm Batman. I'm Batman. You said it.
Yeah. No, yeah. Um, so we're hypnotizing people, we're influencing people. Music does that. Music is magic. What you can't escape that. But what are we feeding into that state while people are under the influence of music? While people are listening to music, what's the message that's getting in? That's what I am that's what I'm asking in my whole campaign, and my message is like, what are we letting slip into the psyche through this music that is being broadcast through popular music today? And I'm actually doing right now, I'm working on a list of the top 10 songs from the last 65 years. Every
Hmm.
year, the top 10 songs, and I'm labeling them objectively based on what we as a society have deemed as good and bad, right? And that's not to say that bad shouldn't exist. It's just murder is bad and feeding your family is good, right? We have agreed upon these things as a society. So I'm going through and I'm labeling, like, is this song positive? Is it positively charged? Is it negatively charged? It's not about it's not, that's it. So, and I'm almost done. I'm on like 2015, and it's green is positive and red is negative, and the red is just starting to take over in the last 20 years.
Very interesting.
So I'm only basing it on the words. I'm only basing it on the message of the song. So my way of doing healing and light work is infusing the songs with positive words. And this is not to say rainbows and sunshines and puppies. Like, that's part of the whole reason that the modern world rejects the spiritual world, because a lot of the spiritual world is spiritually bypassing problems. Have you heard spiritual bypassing? Have you heard that phrase? It's a phrase that's like, it's like, it describes this phenomenon where when you have a little bit of understanding of spirituality, metaphysics, how, the atoms, God, how that all comes together, you can somehow like start to stuff things that you really should actually be dealing with. Like the whole law of attraction, it's a real thing to me, but the idea that you have to be happy all the time and that negative feelings are bad and you just push the negative feelings away, that's spiritually bypassing. We have to process all these negative feelings and then figure out what to do with them. So I talk about deep things. I call things out. I speak truth to power is a big one that I'm doing. I I I I talk about what is going on. I talk about spiritual concepts, but in a 3-dimensional way. That's what I like to say. I do 5D concepts in a 3D way. And that's how it's healing, and that's the light work. But it's not let's hold hands and kumbaya. It's something is really wrong, and if you agree with that, what are you doing about it? Like, let's point out that something is wrong. If you think something is wrong, great. Come over to this camp of us who understand, who agree that something is going wrong. What are we going to do about it? And that's not to say we're going to force change upon the world. It's just, how are we going to act? How are we going to change to represent what we want to see in the world? It's not shaming people, although I do want to shame some people, like the people that run the world and are driving us into the ground spiritually and financially. They need to be shamed and taken down. But it's not about us versus them. It's about opening the circle as wide as you possibly can, instead of like spiritually closing off and be like, oh, well, we're spiritual and I use crystals and incense and tarot, and if you don't understand that, well, you can't be my friend. Because that's a thing that is happening. I was like that. For a while. So I've really kind of like, I've gone all the way up into the clouds and I've been all the way down rock bottom in the fires of hell. And I'm now landing in the middle, and I'm trying to just magnetize this area of wake up and change if you want. And if you don't want to, that's fine, but we're going to do it without you, and you'll be dragged along kicking and screaming or whatever. Like, I don't know what the future holds, but I know the future that I want to see, and that's what I put in the music.
Okay, I understand that. So when we talk about healing and energy, you familiar with that band Imagine Dragons?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, my favorite band. Now, Dan Reynolds, the lead singer, he wrote a song called Wrecked, a really great song. It was written on the result of the death of his brother's wife, Alicia, who died of cancer. And the video of him on the beach, and you see her there. Well, that's her, but she's really not there. It's a ghost. Now, let me ask you this question. Is that song healing or energy?
I'm reading the lyrics real quick. So, I mean, okay, we're not here.
I always wondered that.
I'm just reading. Well, you said, is it healing or energy? I mean, everything's energy. Is it healing? I mean, it's definitely healing. I'm not going to say it's not healing, because it's definitely helping people, and that's the thing that I make clear in my article about what I'm calling pop music has lost its moral compass. Bad things can help people, and that's fine. The only thing that I see that I don't like about this song, and these are the little subtle things that are traps, I believe, that is missing. He doesn't resolve, right? There's no resolving. He's just like, I'm a wreck, and that's it. And now people do need to admit that, and I love that. So there's nothing wrong with this song, right? There's nothing wrong with singular songs and the way that they are themselves. And I'm not even talking about this song anymore. If many songs are becoming not resolving, and they're not being like, so I'll use this song as an example. This song could say at the very end, I'm a wreck, I've been a wreck, but damn it, for you, I'll change, I'll clean myself up.
Hmm.
Why doesn't he say that? Right? Like I don't see in his lyrics him saying, "Oh, well, I'll clean myself up." And that's an objective analysis of the song. That's not saying the song is bad. That's not saying it's not going to help people, but
Hmm.
that's the extra mile that I go and say, "Okay, I am a wreck. I've been a wreck, but I don't want to be a wreck anymore. How can I change? Let's change." And then like, "Oh, I made these changes and now I'm not a wreck."
Hmm.
Like
Interesting.
why are we stopping at this what I call complacency? Like it's funny because people Imagine Dragons. I'm gonna get grilled for this. I know I am, but that's okay. People grill me all the time. I'm getting used to it. Imagine Dragons is very uplifting, but they fall short of things like heal the world. And that's just a fact. Like no one people are feel like the people are afraid, especially on major labels. Like you can only do so much. I don't know what these people really want to do, but we're just using the songs as they are as the basis. Wh- I don't see songs taking that extra step to say, I want to be a good person. I want to get better. And these are the steps that I'm going to take to get better. And I am sorry. And together we can do this. And I know things are really hard right now, but there is something bigger and better out there. And they exist in like pockets and, but kind of like in vacuums. But that's my question. Why is this song, or why can't there be another song that's like, I'm a wreck, but I don't want to be anymore, and I will change my ways. If they just end the song with that lyric, it would have changed the whole thing to being like, excuse me, to flipping it. I'm going now. Now I'm on a tangent, but that's my point. Nothing wrong with this song, but why are we not taking it like a step further? Why are we like glorifying this complacency? There's this whole idea that it's cool to be broken because everyone is, which is great. Like we're acknowledging that we're a broken society. We're acknowledging that we all have trauma. We're acknowledging that we don't know how to deal with our feelings. That's great, but we can't live there forever. We can't just live in the trauma forever. So once we express it and feel it, how do we process it? And I think that's what is setting me apart. I am talking about processing it and transcending it.
I believe they have actually answered it through two other songs, Demons and Thunder. Thunder, the thunder, thunder.
Well, demons is the same thing. It's like I have demons, and then what?
Yeah,
Like, right? Like if you look at the lyrics and you read them like a poem, there is no resolution. I have nothing against the band. I like the songs too, but there's no denying that the songs don't resolve in a way that is they don't push forward. They
very interesting.
heal. I'm not taking away their healing factor because they relate to people. Like people relate. People want to talk about their demons. But getting rid of those demons is necessary to have living a happy, healthy life. Like we can all talk about having demons, but I really don't see any artists talk about releasing those demons and how to do it and what it felt like to do it and how hard it was to do it. And now here's where I was, and now here's where I am now that I released those demons.
Wow, you're so inspirational, Chad, really.
I
Well,
appreciate that.
if that's the message that Dan is trying to say, is that there's no ending to it. This is how I feel, and the rest is personal. What about as a musician? What about you? What message do you convey through your music? For instance, how do you want to feel? What message are you trying to tell people? What do you want to hear from them?
Isn't that great? That's a great segue. And I have to just like put the final nail is like Dan Reynolds is the closest thing we have to an inspirational figure in the music industry. But damn it, it's not enough. It's just not enough. So, um, the song "How Do You Want to Feel?" It's funny that you bring that up right after that because okay, so you've got demons. Well, how do you want to feel? Do you want to sit with them forever? Or do you want to release them? Like that's it's simple as that. But the story behind that song is I was watching a TV show and the first scene was a bloody, gory murder.
Mm.
And I had just finished watching Fallout, which I really am interested. I love good stories,
Wow.
but I had to like suffer through the gore. And I realized like, oh my god, gore is now just like sex and drugs and everything extreme is now just normalized and desensitized. Like, so I realized that because there's so much gore in the mainstream and everything else that, is the extreme, we are desensitized. People have been saying that for decades, but we really are another level of desensitized right now. So that's where the song came from. It was like,
Amazing.
the song is um, shaking my head. Oh, not this again. I literally was like, not this again. This opening scene of the show another show I wanted to watch was gore, and I was like, this again. Oh, not this again. Whatever are we doing to ourselves? Shaking my head and wondering, there's gotta be better stories to tell. Like this is what I mean by my words. Every word I pick is intentional and mean something. Gotta be better stories to tell. Tell us how it was back when we listened to love, when we knew the path that we should take, when we knew good from bad. Because now we know good from bad, but we like to choose bad because it's another conversation. But that seems to be the way that like the cool people go. They choose the bad way. Tell us how it was back when we listened to love, when we knew the path we would take. Tell us how it is when we live a purpose and don't listen to the words that they fake. No one has a purpose anymore. Their only purpose is to make money for the big machine that doesn't care about
Mhm.
them. We're suffering from that idea, we're suffering from that. People don't even realize that they are born with a purpose. It's sucked out of them by 5 years old. And you wonder why there's mental health and physical health issues all around the world. The healthiest people are the ones that have no contact with the modern world.
That's interesting, Chad. Like you mentioned, you watch TV and then this beautiful song, "How Do You Want to Feel," comes out. Like, what is your creative process when making music? For instance, I like the song "Divides a Lie." Now, you have these lyrics in there. In our celebration, we oppress half of the nation. Other side of the divide celebrates the other side's demise. I probably think I know what that one's about. Neither wants to look inside, separate the truth from lies. But the one part which kind of got me is where you say only separation is in your head. Ain't no line, oh, we must combine. Do I really got to say it in 1,000 ways? Only separation is the one you make. The divide, the lie, the divide is a lie. What does that mean? And
Oh,
yes, I love your music.
I am moved. Hearing someone else say that is bringing me to tears because I write my songs with the idea that it's going to come out of someone else's mouth, and that is an extreme responsibility that the music industry has abandoned, and maybe
Mm.
never had. Maybe we never had the realization that that is a responsibility, and the crap that is coming out of the popular music machine, and that is being regurgitated by the people listening to it, is contributing to the decay of society. Oh, that was you moved me by saying those words because I've never had them said to me, but they're powerful.
They are powerful. I mean, like the divides lie told you 1,000 times. Like this is beautiful, Chad. Like what life experience caused you to write such heartfelt lyrics? Like amazing.
Thank you. Well, this is twofold. The genesis of the song is about the election because this is the most divided we've ever been. Period. I don't even need to describe that. Everyone knows that. Um, but this is also the first election where I realized that this is just two sides of the same coin, and we need a new coin. Um, that's the inspiration for it. But then the deeper issue is the bigger divide. Excuse me. The bigger divide is the divide between the heart and the mind. The divide between the soul and the body, between the 5D and the 3D, between heaven and earth or hell, but like between the physical and the metaphysical, between God and human. That
Mm-hmm.
divide does not exist. And politics, financiers, religious leaders, all of our leaders in general, power mongers, the people that you see, the people you don't see, have convinced the world that you are separate from God, that you're, and actually, that's not even what I meant to say. That is true that they've convinced us of that. But we are in a world that no longer listens to the heart. We are in a world that is 99% driven by the brain, by logic, which is the ego. We are not built that way. That's not how we are built as a human being. We are
Mm.
built to lead with the heart, aka the gut, right? The gut feeling is the heart feeling. And that's why people say my heart was in my stomach, or my stomach was like, because the heart and the gut are actually more intelligent than you might think. The science tells us that the only thing doing the processing is the brain, but that's not true. The heart is processing feelings. The heart has its own brain in a way. Otherwise, why do you have a gut feeling? Like, describe that. Like, why do we say that? Why is it not like, oh, I have a brain feeling?
It's just our
Like,
emotions, like crying, for instance. It's endorphins, I think.
yeah, yeah, yeah. But it's like, why? That is true. But I ask, why, without the heart, would we be able to cry? Maybe, probably. Well, no. But okay, I'm getting off topic. So we need the brain, we need the heart. They have to work in tandem. The modern world has basically pushed away the emotions and said, stuff your emotions. Just think about whatever's best. Think about whatever's best. Don't feel anything, because if you feel something, you might actually grow. You might actually realize something if you feel it. So that's the divide between the heart and the mind, between the body and the soul. There is no divide. We are divine beings. We are, you could say, made in God's image, right? That's what they say. We're made in the image of the universe. We are the same energy. So that's the divide. And I'm trying to close that gap with every song that I write.
Well, the photo you have for Divide to Lie on Spotify does not match what the song's about, just so you know.
Because there's a divide. Because it's duality, right?
Mm, okay.
Right? Is
I
that what
get
you're
your
saying?
I get your imagery, yeah.
Because it's and it's funny because I use, it's not satire, but it's commentary.
Hmm.
It's like it's showing an image of duality, is like, because we do have duality, um but showing that image is more like, this is what you think it is, and I'm like all bent back and everything to show the pain. Like, we're not supposed to be divided, we're supposed to be together. So it's like those two pieces are separated, but they should be together. It's like an ongoing image, vision, journey.
Hmm.
Um, but you make a good point. I didn't, it's art, but I see your point.
Okay, well that's interesting. Well, I don't know how you do it, Chad. I don't know how you say motivated, inspired. How do how do you just stay motivated and inspired in your work and ah
If I don't, I get sick. If I don't, I get anxiety. I I think most artists, it's really most people, but there are certain levels of consciousness. Some people come in with more, some people come in with less, and there's nothing bad about that. I'm here to do something. Some people are here to chill, and that's perfectly fine. But the people that are here to do something, if they're not doing it, they get sick. They get they fall into bad relationships. They have symptoms of you not expressing your life's purpose. So I messed around with that life's purpose, or I messed around with like not doing it for a while, and I'm not me. It's not a the thing I need motivation on is doing my work to make money.
Hmm.
That I need motivate, but that at the same time is starting to kind of all kind of come together. And I'm finding work in the way that much more easily now, even in the last like 2 months, because of changes I made internally and changing my vibration and really just like tuning it. Um, but yeah, it's if you're meant to do it, you don't need motivation. It just happens every day. Now, it takes years of practicing to recognize that, to recognize like, oh, that's an idea for a song. I need to write that down. And then if I can get the whole thing out right now, I'll do it. But if I can't, I have to come back to it and get that out later. Like that takes skill to recognize that you need to express. But once you recognize that you need to express, it just is like, oh, got to get that. It's like exercising. It is. It is. It's exercising. It's like eating. If you don't eat, you're going to pass out. If I don't express myself, I'm going to have symptoms. I'm going to energetically pass out. I'm going to spiritually pass out. I'm going to yell at my partner. I'm going to
Mm.
lose this client. I'm going to have a symptom that is not directly related, but it is. It's correlated. Yeah. And then once the business side comes in, that's fine. But I might need motivation for that. Then it's just that just comes with the territory. But yeah, I don't get writer's block. I don't get writer's block. I don't need to go out into nature to get motivated. If people need that, that's fine. I'm not saying that's bad. But I don't need it. I just wake up because I've accepted my life's purpose and my mission, and making peace with that has made my life so much better.
What about others, Chad, who want to follow in your footsteps? What aspiring advice would you give to other musicians and artists?
Why are you doing it? Because nowadays with social media, there's lots of people that shouldn't be doing it. And I don't mean expressing through music. I mean, do you want to do this as a career and do you want to make change with your music, or do you want to be famous?
Hmm.
Right? And I say this to the people that are actually open to things like this, because if a lot of people that just want to be famous aren't going to care. But if like, if your does your heart flutter when you think about making music, or does your ego throw a party and say that you're the greatest person ever? Like, where is your reaction coming from? First, decide that, because you're gonna, that's gonna help you determine how you're going after it. Like, you have to accept that decide if it's a hobby or a career. That's what I'm saying. Decide if it's a hobby or career, because social media has skewed that to the point where everyone thinks that they can make anything that they are interested in a career. And that's great in concept, but it's impossible it's impossible. Um, because if everyone made music, who is going to run the supermarket? If
Hmm.
everyone, right? So that is a whole nother conversation in itself. But I would encourage, once you decide that if it's a hobby or a career, then go stick to that path. And a lot of the time, if you keep it as a hobby and you really commit to it, you might get good enough that it becomes a career. But if you think it's a career, but you're only doing it but you might be doing it for the wrong reason, you will be unhappy. That's what the point I was trying to get to. If you are doing it because you think it's cool, or your friends are doing it, or you had a viral video somehow, um, and that's what you think you want, but it's not necessarily making your heart fulfilled. Just consider that, because you might not actually be happy. Like I've been broke my whole life. That's changing, but I have been doing my music the whole time, and I've been happy. Like overall, I've been happy because I know what I'm doing. You could have lots of money. It's the old adage, right? You can have all the money in the world but still be unhappy. So decide why you're doing it and then follow that road.
Great words of advice. Really appreciate that, Chad. With when you're
Thank
talking earlier, I mean earlier about family and stuff. So, how do you handle the harsh criticism, feedback of your work? Like if your family or friends and say, "I don't like your stuff," or you know,
Well, I don't really have I don't really have family, which is fine. Well, it's not fine, but it is my life. It's how my life panned out
hmm,
at this point, which is actually helpful because they don't get it, and that's a blessing that I don't have any
hmm,
super close family because if I was still under their influence, it would be harder to do what I am so unapologetically.
that's sad.
It is, but at the same time, I wouldn't be who I am or where I am without the freedom that it gave me. um,
Yeah, but don't you just want someone to come up to you and say, "I love you, son," or "I love you, brother," "I love you"?
well, so I've been with my partner Tom for 2 years. That is the first time where I understood what love was. So
Hmm,
you say that it would. I think I knew what love was from movies and TV. I
hmm,
never knew what love really was. That's why my relationships were all built on sex and alcohol, and I never really had a real relationship. And that only stopped like 2 years ago.
hmm,
So, yes, now I see, like, wanting someone to come up and say that, but I never really had it. I never really had it. The word was thrown around, the hugs were thrown around, but it wasn't
hmm,
normal, I'm coming to find. So that made me kinda cold, and I didn't realize that until I met Tom.
hmm.
But I also surrounded myself with other people that were like that, right? Because like attracts like. So I really didn't know any better. And then once I got a little bit older, alcohol comes in the picture, and then you really lose concept of like what is real and what is not in terms of love with substances. Um, but dealing with the I get hate, right? Like everyone does online. Um, Getting over that, I'm just learning how to get through that.
Hmm,
It's a phenomenon that is new. It's
hmm,
not. It's excuse me.
hmm.
Everyone before social media didn't have to deal with this level of scrutiny and direct attacks on your soul. These people that come at you with comments are trying to destroy your soul
The new
because
form of bullying, yeah.
it's bullying. It's like sidebar, we were doing pretty good with the anti-bullying movement of like the 2000s, and then the social media came in and we just kind of like gave up
Mhm.
in the face of freedom of speech and freedom of expression, and it's just words, it's just online. It's not real. So I don't have an answer on how to. The only way to deal with it is by, and I'm speaking from learn, like I'm just learning how to do it. I'm not a pro at this. When I can stop looking at social media, I will, because I don't. It takes so much energy to overlook someone's horrible dumping of their energy onto you, which is what these kind of words are. They're so upset with their life that they're trying to destroy yours. But the way to deal with it is you have to transcend it. You have to learn how to transmute that energy and understand that, and this goes for any kind of criticism that's not constructive. If you just have to learn how to transmute it and not let it come in, right? You have to learn how to not take it personally. That was the hardest part for me, to not take it personally. And like you always hear the phrase, um, what bounces off me sticks to you, right? That old line. Words are so. I'm saying something double glue. What bounces off me sticks to you. That phrase, that childhood phrase. It's like
Sticks
sticks
and
and
stones can break my bones, but names will never hurt me. Nobody
it,
even believes that
yeah.
anymore because names are hurting me, you know? And the thing I hate is that I was bullied, but I knew the people that bullied me, but now bullying is online and you see comments from somebody who uses a sort of a username or a handle, but you may be working with them and you won't even know because they hide by
That's
social
true.
media, like in X, formerly Twitter,
Yeah.
and Facebook and all that. And you get these comments, which I believe Meta deals with it by removing it. But yeah, and
Mm.
some of it hurt. But nowadays, 16-year-old girls who are told you're not pretty enough, whatever, are committing suicide, which is a totally different conversation, by the way. Suicide, all because someone says you're not pretty enough, or you're ugly, or you're too fat. When I was in school, the girls and the guys, yes, girls were bullying me too. They would call me names, and I didn't commit suicide. I mean, I turned out pretty well. You know, just kidding. Um, but yeah, and it's terrible. There's no anti-bullying regulations anymore. It's just online. Hey, I
Yep.
hate your song. You're such an idiot. I can write better songs than you. And then you can counteract, say, delete, or do what I do. Said when someone said you're a piece of garbage, you shouldn't be singing. I said, well, even if I'm garbage, I deserve to have a voice. And there you go. You know?
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
the catch. That's the crapshoot
Hmm.
responding to them, because there's this school of thought that responding to them diffuses it. Sometimes it can, but sometimes it makes it worse because they have nothing to lose and they know how to go low. I've
Mm.
learned that I can't respond to them because I could maybe respond to I'll like respond to a couple and then I'll feel good about being able to like defend myself, but then I'll hit one and then they'll come back at me like twice as hard and I'll be out of energy. I'll have to just cry, or like I'll have to let whatever they dumped into me, I'll have to let I lost. Like sometimes there's no um sometimes you're beat up. Like you are the victim. And you sometimes, yeah, like you get hurt. There's like you don't sometimes there's no amount of energy in the world or strength to stop a bully from their attack landing.
Mm.
And you just have to accept that that happened, and then you're like, how did this happen? Because I don't know this person, but they destroyed my moment and now I have to recover for the next like 2 hours. So I've learned to just not engage. And but that took many months of being able to see the comment come through and not respond and not be affected. I still am working on it, and I'm gonna have to be working on it for a long time. But and this goes for just comments and bullying in general, not just for creators.
But also
It's a
for someone who's a member of the LGBTQ community as well.
yeah. Who, me or
Sure.
anyone?
Anyone, yeah.
Yeah, that's any minority,
Mm.
any marginalized community, uh, xenophobia. I mean, even men now, like white men, are bullied for certain reasons. It's like obviously white. I believe that like white men do need to check themselves. Like overall, which is part of why what I'm saying I think is important, because it comes from a white man that I'm like, we've been doing really wrong for like 100, 200 years, 300 years, 1,000 years. We have the power. So we need to use our power, our privilege for good. Again, that's a whole nother conversation. But yes, all kinds of people, everyone's getting bullied. Everyone. And
Yeah.
it's not nothing. We can't just like let it go anymore. I don't have the answer to that. That itself is not like a specific mission that I have, but it's all about filling the bully back up with self-esteem, right? Hurt people hurt people. So
Yes. Yes.
it's not
Exactly.
about anti-bullying as much as it is helping the perpetrator feel better about themselves, and then they won't continue to perpetuate that bullying
Healing.
energy.
There you go. Healing. And ending songs like wrecked. End the song like he didn't end it for some reason. But yeah, you're right. You're very inspirational. I really appreciate that. I have one great question for you here before we end the stream. unless you want to do another 3 hours, we have a lot we could talk about everything. But so I'd be interested in knowing. I ask this a lot of artists. Sometimes I don't because you get the same answer. But I love your style. I love your inspirational, just the way you say things. How do you feel that the future of music and art evolving, especially with AI?
Specifically about AI,
Like
or two
music, like
questions.
okay, so but the future of music in general using AI.
Okay, you with AI, and I make my decisions based on a lot of what I read and just my own internal understanding and perception. AI is going to become a genre of its own. AI is going
Hmm,
to become something that is used to fill in the gaps for
I never heard that before.
and it's I'm using that word. It's going to create as many genres as it wants, but it's like it's going to become like a column, a vertical in the industry. And it's gonna there's people that'll listen to it because those people don't care about the certain things that come with human art. It's like Muzak. It's just the new
Elevator.
it's the new iteration of Muzak. It's just really good. But AI cannot write the lyrics I write. AI cannot feel. AI cannot dance. I mean, maybe eventually a robot could, but
I've seen
so
those robots.
AI is going. I'm not even like fighting it. I'm definitely fighting. I definitely have my perspective on it, and I want to make sure it doesn't destroy the world. But even if that destruction is conceptual and philosophical, it might not be physical, but it could be uh, non-physical destruction.
Mm.
Um, it's going to be it could be used for like background music of a movie. It could be pop music that people consume on the top of the charts. It could be, but that's going to be its own thing. People are going to know the difference. The people that know the difference are going to reject it completely, and then they're going to start looking for people like me, which is why I
Wow.
I'm biding my time, because like people like you, people, as much as the powers that be think everyone's dumb and think that everyone is just a little sheep. In fact, everyone is actually much smarter than we realize. Everyone that's on earth is much more capable of learning and feeling and being what the smartest person is. I'm not talking about intellectual, I'm talking about awareness and just living of vitality. Everyone is capable of of the highest vitality.
Mm.
So the powers that be, AI, like they're going to have their audience for decades. It's going to be there at least decades, maybe hundreds of years, maybe infinite, maybe indefinitely. But
Mm.
there is going to be a resurgence of true, deep, bleeding heart art. And that's what I think. I think, and that's why I feel actually pretty confident in my timing, because what I believe part of my role also is to be that spark. There might be another spark like me, but I know there are plenty of other people like me, but they're scared, rightfully so. Scared or just unsure or just don't believe enough or all of those things. My goal is to support myself, obviously, as a person. I need to make income, and I want to do that through music and performing. But over the years, I have learned that it's actually about riling up everyone else that's like me, that
Hmm.
just needs a little bit of assurance that they're not alone. And we are going to stand in the face of AI and that whole world of just superficiality and materialism. And we're going to build this new old world. And it's like, hey, if you want to go back to being what a human being really is like before the internet age,
Hmm.
well, we're not going to stop using technology, but we're going to go back to the roots of art and existence and community in a real way, not a virtual way, because social media is virtual community. Internet AI is virtual everything. None of it's real. So that's what I believe is going to happen. It's going to split into two, and who knows how long, who knows how much percentage or whatever, but it's going to split into two, and probably for the rest of our lives, there will be these two camps, and we'll just see how it plays out. But I know that I believe there will be a safe haven for people that want to live and consume, period, in that healthier way versus, people that are half alive, which is a song I wrote. And that's
Yeah.
that. We're kind of like, Earth is going to house two different groups of people for a while we decide which direction we're going to go as a human species.
That is so amazing. Thank you so much, Chad.
Thank
Everyone,
you.
all of Chad's music will be linked down below. Also, his latest release, Pirate's Life,
Yeah.
Spotify down below.
It's nothing what you think the title is like.
And he currently has singles Divides a Lie, as we mentioned, If I Don't, Unburying How Do You Want to Feel, which we discussed, Dark Nights, 35, and Boomerang, which is an excellent song. Chad, what final message would you like to share with our listeners today?
Together we rise.
It's amazing. I like
It's
that.
the only way.
I like how you talk. It's like really inspirational. I really do believe that you're going, if you keep pushing and shoving, you're going to make it. You know,
I appreciate that.
you're going to do it. I mean, like your music and that one we discussed was excellent.
Thank you
And
very much.
thank you, Chad, for sharing your incredible journey and insights with us today. Your dedication to raising the vibration of humanity through your music and art is truly inspiring. And to everyone, remember that you are not alone in this journey. Together we rise. Stay tuned for more inspiring interviews, and don't forget to check out Chad's work at chadrising.com. Until next time, keep shining your light. Okay, everyone, thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Thank you. Walking right by me for many centuries, but I didn't come to sit around this time. Always ignore my plea. They've been avoiding me, but I am now armed with sound and rhyme. I spent at the coffin, the one they kept me in. Now I emerge from the ground. Yeah, oh, I've been living in the dirt, only lies and cracks of earth. I've been down in the deep, but now I am unearthing. Now I'm rising up, yeah, unburying me. I've been sitting here planted underneath. Now it's time, don't you see? This is me, I'm burying. Ooh, they better watch out. Desperate to pull my plug, try to make me shut up. Golden crown and jewels they wear, don't care. Look what I'm stirring up. Yeah, I've been gaining their trust. I saw my gauntlet bright, drag them into the light. I've lived in darkness long enough. I toughened up, I'm tougher than bulletproof glass. I'm going to kick some ass.